It is my great pleasure to be with you at St. Joseph's once again. And whenever I come here in Chisholm and Bio, it feels like coming back home. I remember the first time I heard that Father Paul was around, I could hardly pronounce the name. I had never heard Chisholm, and I never heard, I would say, Boo instead of Bio. And I feel at home and being able to meet my classmate, Father Paul. And I must say, you are blessed to have Father Paul. And he does great work here. And I tell him, I do the same work, but somehow in a different way in Uganda. And usually I tell him my stories of being, having goats, having pigs, having chicken, growing coffee, growing bananas. It's a different experience. You know, whereas I do ministry, it's another additional work that I do, which is a little different from Father Paul. But all the same, for the glory of God. And in the year 2019, I was doing mission appeal here in the U.S., and every time I come here in the U.S. for mission appeal and a little vacation, as a pastor, sometimes we do a lot of work, hopefully for God, and then I give a report to my bishop. So the year 2019, after coming from the U.S., I meet my bishop, and I give him a report for about 2 hours conversation. It was a very warm and friendly conversation. And then, as we were concluding the conversation, he tells me, hey, by the way, I am sending you to Mary Queen of Apostles Parish to be the pastor. I said, really? This parish is not the best parish in the diocese that as a young man I can run to. And especially a younger man trained in the US, there was no piped water, there was no electricity. And then all of this was running in my mind. There was not enough food in the parish. So as a pastor, I had to make sure, like St. Paul, to see how to survive and I don't become a burden to the parishioners. Well, as a bishop, when he says something, you never say no. So I went. I said, well, surely the bishop does not hate me. He's just giving me a challenge to see how I can take on this challenge. I reach in this parish. I begin sharing my experiences with the bishop, with the parishioners. And I told them, we need to change the image of this parish. We make it habitable so that tomorrow when I go to another assignment, I leave it much better so that the priest who comes after me feels more comfortable. We begin, with adoration was number 1 of the Eucharist so that people can come more for prayers. Especially, it's a big crowd, 10,000 parishioners, and so to mobilize all of that to the parish, it's a lot of work. I did home-to-home visitations, building school, doing farming to make sure we have enough for the community and for the parish as well, and encouraging them to do as I do, to raise food for their families. And I want to thank you so much for your support. You always support me, especially the dormitory for the girls' high school. The high school is growing so fast, about 600 students, and they are so lovely. And one thing that I admire, this school, both even Muslims come to this school, even Anglicans come to this school. And my joy as a pastor is to do as much as I can so that hopefully even these Anglicans and Muslims in the future can become Catholics, which is possible, especially through marriages. And so one thing I experienced in this parish, even some Anglican Christians support us in the parish. They donate a few things to us, some money and many things. And then I asked, how is this possible? They tell me, we serve the same God. We serve the same Jesus Christ. It's only the missionaries who brought us, the Catholic faith by the French, the Anglicans by the British, but we serve the same God. It made me think, yeah, that's the way it is. You are brothers and sisters. And this brings me today to this very statement of Jesus. Whoever is not against us is for us. Whoever is not against us is for us. We hear from the gospel, St. John the Apostle thought that it was irregular for someone to do a mighty deed in Jesus' name without publicly traveling with Jesus. Jesus saw something more important in this. He saw someone who had complete faith in his name to conquer demons. He saw someone who cared enough about the terrible sufferings of the people possessed by demons. This must have been someone well acquainted with Jesus' ministry. However, some questions are unanswered here. Had this person personally witnessed an exorcism of Jesus? Had this person himself been one of the people in the Gospels, maybe whom Jesus delivered a demon from? And then, why didn't he travel with Jesus together with the disciples? These are unanswered questions. We do know, however, that Jesus did not see this man as a threat to his mission. Never. Instead, he was content with the man for not being against him. He was thankful because the man drove out the demons in his name, so he was comfortable. And so today we learn that we need to rejoice with the good works of others. We need to rejoice with the good works of others. That's why I always appreciate every little bit that each one of us does. I tell Father Paul, I thank God we are still young. We can't do everything. We can do some things more for the glory of God. And I appreciate that you support me in my mission across the other continent. Be proud if other people are doing good works in the name of God. And Jesus says, do not stop them, for no one who works miracles in his name is against Jesus. We learn again in the gospel, Jesus reminds us that doing good works has no boundary. Doing good works has no boundary. It has no jurisdiction. It has no limit, because goodness and kindness are the language that each one of us understands. Goodness and kindness are the language that each one of us understands. I got to know Father Paul in the seminary at St. Paul Seminary, University of St. Thomas in Minnesota, in St. Paul. I came there, I had no brother, I had no sister, I had no father, I had no mother, but these, Father Paul and others, became my brothers, my sisters, and my brothers because of their goodness and kindness. Good deeds are our responsibility, even if our kindness, good deeds are our responsibility, even if our kindness and generous work may seem not recognized sometimes. We might do good deeds, and sometimes maybe we think they are not recognized by anyone. However, remember that someone in heaven smiles for any good act you and I do, and our reward is great in heaven.